Everyone, Zoltan here. We're back again this week, and this time we have a special edition. We are helping uh, spread a message which is very important in November. You probably heard of the Movember movement, and the team at GameOn had this great idea to host this small webinar. Which I think is going to have a big echo. And yeah, we are grateful to hand over the mic on our HIPTHER talks as usual, as we did in the past 4 years. I've been the host here, but this is the first time I'm handing over the microphone, the virtual microphone, to another host in the form of Andy Blackburn from GameOn, who will be moderating this session. And those who are listening to this recording on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, you just like hit that share button and share this message because it's very important. So Andy, I will hand over the mic to you, and you just like take over. I will be here.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Zoltan. Actually, a massive thank you to Zoltan and all the team at HIPTHER for kindly agreeing to not just host on their platform, but they're going to edit and publish this special webinar that we're putting together. November is an important time of the calendar year for us. It's something that we discuss a lot within GameOn, not solely because of the number of people that we've had that are close to us that have suffered from various things that Movember tries to raise awareness of, but also because we think it's important to kind of bring something to a platform here where we can open up discussions and show that being able to come out and talk about things that are stressing us out, or any kind of physical health as well as mental health that's going on in our lives, that being able to come out and talk about that is a strength and not a weakness. And I'm really glad to be able to say that I've got two very good friends of mine on this webinar with me today. So I'd like to thank our guests, Jeremy Coleman from Pear Fiction and Lee McFarland from Behind the Gloves, and to thank them for agreeing to be here and to share the stories that they've been going through, the lives that they've been living over the last 3, 5, 10 years. Because it takes a lot of courage to open up personally. And I'm incredibly grateful to both of you for the honesty and for taking some time out of your very busy weeks to come and do this with us. I think it's going to be really important. So very quickly, I just wanted to say before we begin, for anybody who is listening on Spotify, whoever's watching this or replay maybe on YouTube or on some other form of social media, we are going to be discussing some sensitive topics. These include illness and anxiety and depression and addiction, suicide and death. So if you are sensitive to those sorts of conversations, then please be aware, because that's the kind of conversation we're going to be having today. With that, I'd like to hand over to Jeremy just to do a quick intro and let everybody know who he is, and then we'll do the same with Lee, and then we'll start the conversation.
Good morning, Andy. Thank you very much for the very nice welcome. As you say, I'm Jeremy Coleman. I'm the commercial director at Pear Fiction Studios. We're a small slot studio based out of Montreal, although I'm based in southern Spain. I've been in the online gaming industry for close to 20 years now, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I couldn't imagine myself working in any other industry. I really enjoy the buzz and the pace of online gaming, and it's something that keeps us on our toes. We're learning every day. It's changing every day. With the advance of technology, it means that there's always something new to learn and to try and get to grips with. I'm in a position that I thoroughly enjoy, so I'm incredibly grateful for that. I don't know what more. Do you want me to do the full?
No, I think that's just an intro on who you are and what you do, and the same from you, Lee.
Yeah, good morning, Andy and team. Thank you for inviting me today. Lee McFarland, been in the industry over 10 years now. Worked across multiple geographicals, so, Asia, North America, Europe. Really excited to be here today and talk about my experience and my journey I'm always grateful being able to have the ability to pass on some of my experience, lived experience and knowledge that can help or potentially help just one person. I think that's really, really important, especially during this month of November. So Andy and the team at GameOn really appreciate your invite to go and discuss that today.
No, thank you very much for agreeing to come on this with us. It's I'll put my hand up and say I've actually got a bit of anxiety and nervousness because I've never done anything like this before. So it's good to be getting this message out. So for those who aren't aware, because Movember with an M isn't kind of a worldwide global thing, and we all know that the internet and social media has that worldwide and global reach. It's something that started in the UK. Probably 8 to 10 years ago is when I first remember seeing it, when the first PIN badges were coming out. And back then it really was mainly to do with testicular cancer. And then it led on to prostate cancer as well, obviously the two cancers that affect men. And from there, it's grown into a charitable initiative helping raise awareness about all forms of health issues that men suffer and go through. My family's been touched by cancer this year, including a member of my family going through treatment for prostate cancer. I have other members of family and close friends that have gone through other forms of cancer, that have gone through mental health problems, gone through depression, anxiety, that have gone through being almost institutionalized for a period of time. And I think the more I've spoken about this to different people from all walks of life, not just through gaming, is how quickly you realize that everybody knows someone, at least one person that has gone through something like this before. So because it started off with as a male cancer charity, I'll hand over to you, Jeremy, to maybe go through just kind of an overview of what you've been going through for the last few years.
Yeah, so I'm a man in his early 50s. I was seeing my GP for something fairly ordinary and mundane, and he said to me, "Well, Jeremy, now that you're a 50-year-old man, you need to have something called a PSA test." And I said, "Wow, what's a PSA test?" And he said, "It's just a simple blood test that will check if there's any problems with your prostate." And I didn't really know much about my prostate. I didn't know where it was, didn't know what it did. Like most men, we know it's down there somewhere in the embarrassing part of our body, but we don't know exactly where it is. And anyway, I had a blood test, and the PSA score was slightly high, despite the fact that I had no symptoms for any urinary issues or anything like that at all. And the long and the short of it is, I was referred to a urologist in a hospital in southern Spain, who did a series of tests. First of all, I had to have an ultrasound, a bit like a pregnant woman. I had the finger test, which is something that most men do think of when they think about prostate issues. They always think of the finger test. That's not the first thing that happens. It's always a blood test. A PSA is just a simple blood test. When you go for your annual Wellman checkup, you're going to have your bloods collected and tested for iron and cholesterol and various other things. It's literally just checking a box that says you're going to also test for PSA. Everything was coming back normal. I had an MRI that came back normal. I had a CT scan that came back normal. And then almost as a last resort, my urologist said to me, I'm still not sure why your PSA score is creeping up. It was never sky high, but it was just above where it needs to be. So in Europe, most men or most doctors say that your PSA score has got to be below 4. Most men, it's usually in the region of 1, 1.5, 2, something like that. That's a comfortable level. Mine initially was 6.7, and it started creeping up. It went to 7.1, and then it went to 10.6. over the space of a few weeks, which is why the urologist was concerned. So I had to have a biopsy, which is a proper operation. You're knocked out, your legs are up in stirrups, and they do a biopsy on your prostate, and they retrieve some microscopic samples from your prostate and test it for cancer. And that came back with signs of cancer. So I walked into the urologist consulting room being told that I was going to have the all clear again. And she sat me down and said, I have some bad news, but you do have cancer. And it was as if the whole world just stopped. Luckily, I had my wife with me, and she quickly reached over and grabbed me by my hand. But the rest of the conversation is almost a blur. All I remember is that she said to me, the rest of your life is going to change forever, which is true. But it's not as dark as it might seem. Fortunately, in my case, the cancer was caught very early. I did not have to have chemotherapy. Initially, I was offered the option to have surgery and have my prostate removed, but I was then given another scan with, in Spain, they call it with contrast. So what they do is they inject like a radioactive fluid in your veins, and that lights up any signs of cancer in your body. And they found that I also had a small cancerous growth in one of my vertebrae. So it's metastasized from my prostate, which is down near my bladder, all the way up to 2/3 up my spine. Now, you could argue, yeah, but Jeremy, you're not a very tall man. That's not very far. True. If I was 6'7" instead of 5'7", that's more of a jump. But I am unfortunately only 5'7". But it's very rare that prostate cancer will metastasize up into the spine. It usually, if it's going to move to another place in your body, it will usually be in the lymph nodes, close to your prostate. It could be in your bladder, it can be in your pelvis, and maybe even in your ribs. But to go up to your spine is quite unusual. So the option of surgery was taken away from me, and I immediately started having radiotherapy, and I had very aggressive radiotherapy on my spine, and then a short break, and then I started taking some medication, and I had 28 sessions of radiotherapy on my prostate, which is tough. It's not easy. It's no picnic. It's not as tough as chemo, but having all that radiation put into your body day after day, it's really draining. It's really tiring. You feel like you're constantly being punched in the pit of your stomach. You imagine Lee when he's got his boxing gloves on and he's just punching you just in the, below the belly button area, and he's just constantly standing there punching you over and over and over again. It really was uncomfortable.
It's got to be exhausting. Mate.
Say again?
It's got to be exhausting.
It was shattering. It was really tiring, because you're trying to function as well as can be. Because of the way I am with my work, I didn't take a day off work. I would work in the mornings, and I would basically sleep and be in the bathroom in the afternoons and the evenings. Because of how close the prostate is to your colon, it affects your toilet habits. So you have constant diarrhea for about 10 hours of the day, starting in sort of like mid-afternoon until you go to bed. And that as well is exhausting. But you get through it. And I was very lucky. I've got a very, very good team. My oncologist is wonderful. My urologist is wonderful. The people at the cancer clinic were all amazing. And I got through 28 sessions. It's a lot. It's not as many as some men have to do. If their cancer is more aggressive or if it's more advanced, they can do up to, I've seen 54, 56 sessions, which, this is every day. So you're going Monday to Friday every day at the same time. So, it's quite tough. And then you get past that. And then you start the next stage of your treatment, which is hormone therapy. Because prostate cancer has a very nasty habit of coming back, even after surgery. So even when men have had surgery to remove their prostate, it has an annoying habit of coming back again. So I'm on a 6-monthly injection, which I've had this morning, by the way. Today was the day that I had my 6-monthly injection. I've just been to the cancer clinic. And I have to take a tablet every day. And those two medicines combined block the production of testosterone, which obviously is the main male hormone, because prostate cancer feeds off testosterone. So if you have very little or no testosterone in your body, in your bloodstream, then the chances of that cancer coming back is pretty much zero. Now, the side effects of not having any testosterone is very unlikely I'm ever going to grow a big bushy beard ever again. In fact, I'm not shaving anywhere near as much as I used to. I've lost all my body hair. I've lost a lot of muscle. I was never a muscly guy. I was, I've always been healthy and I go to the gym, but I've lost a lot of muscle because muscle is something that testosterone can help grow, which is why it's included in certain steroids. So you find that your life changes dramatically because of the after effects of this cancer, and it's a horrible thing to have to go through. It's a very common thing. I mean, so many people get prostate cancer. And I was reading some stats, and if I get these slightly wrong, I apologize, but 1 in 8 men in the UK could get prostate cancer. The fact is, most men don't know that they've got it. Like I said, I had no symptoms. I had no knowledge that there was anything wrong with me whatsoever. And I could have carried on living. If I didn't have that PSA test, I would have been none the wiser. That growth would have carried on growing in my spine. It could have ended up eating away at a particular vertebrae that it was in. It was the size of a lentil when the doctors found it. It could have got to this, a bit bigger, a bit bigger, a bit bigger. And then it could have really sort of disintegrated that vertebrae. And I could have ended up in a wheelchair, the doctors told me. And even just the straightforward prostate cancer, if it's allowed to grow, it's very, very difficult to for it to be treated. And we've seen famous people have to have treatment for prostate cancer. And there's the Olympic cyclist Chris Hoy, or Sir Chris Hoy, who's only been given, I think, 3 or 4 years to live, and he's got prostate cancer, but it's so advanced that they say that there's nothing that they can really do for him, and yet I think he's late 40s or maybe 50 now. So it's a real wake-up call. So it's very common. Most men actually die with prostate cancer. They don't die from it. So they might die, and if they were to have any form of what's it called when their body is opened up by a doctor, they say, "Oh, did you know that Mr. Smith had prostate cancer?" And their partner or wife, husband, whoever might say, "No idea that he had that." So, like I say, a lot of people die with it, not from it, and it's more common in African American males than it is Caucasian males, and Asian males get it a lot less frequently. So, your genetic makeup plays a big part on whether you're likely to get it or not, which I find fascinating. Is it because of where people live? Is it because of genetics? Is it something hereditary? I've no idea, but it's a very, very common cancer. So whenever people are talking about prostate cancer, or they're talking about men's health, for me, I'm always happy to get involved, and I'm really happy that you asked me to do this, Andy, because like I said to you before, when I realized that I had this, and when I completed my treatment, and I posted on LinkedIn and Facebook that I'd had cancer and that I'd got through the treatment and that I'd had an all clear from my oncology team, I was never interested in doing something like running the London Marathon or swimming the Channel. I have every admiration for people who do that, but it's not me. For me, it's about awareness. And I've been on a bit of a mission for the last sort of like year or so to say to men and women, please look after yourself. Please go and get yourself checked. Whether it's your prostate, whether it's for men, whether it's your testicles, for women, if it's your breasts, go and have a mammogram, go and get your smear test done. It's uncomfortable. We don't like it, but it has to be done. So I'm much more about the communication and the drive to get people tested than any charitable cause. From my perspective, I'm never going to put on a pair of shoes and run the London Marathon. However, if somebody did, I could try. But if you were to do it tomorrow, or Lee, I would be the first one to put my hand in my pocket and say, there you go, there's a donation, because I'm super proud of you for doing it. It's just
there have to be a lot of training put in before somebody my size could run the London Marathon.
Possibly. But I think you would have the determination to do it, Andy, to be honest.
Yeah. But, the thing that gets me is the people that I know that have gone through the same thing that you've gone through. There's a massive differentiation in your ages when you were diagnosed. And the thing that really sticks with me is, with all cancers, as we know, early detection is the most important factor. Absolutely. In terms of survivability, right?
Yeah.
The pushing that message to everybody about, look, you're going to go for a blood test at some point in the next 12 months anyway. This whole thing where they used to say, right, we give it to men over 50, which like what they did to you. There's a big push in the UK now saying, we'll do a PSA test. They want to start introducing PSA tests on the NHS for over 40s. So off the back of, obviously, you made a big push saying men go and get checked. I went and got checked because I was having my yearly checkup anyway. And you're right, it's one more vial of blood. You've already got the cannula in your arm or your wrist. They're going to take 2 or 3 to do your cholesterol, your iron levels. They do the diabetes check once you get to a certain age. They're taking one more vial to check for PSA makes zero difference to the fact you're already having bloods taken. So I think there's one message we can take from your side of this discussion, mate, is every bloke listening to this and every woman listening to this, get your men, get your brothers, your dads, your uncles, get them to go and just have it done. Because if you have it done on a regular basis, that's when the doctors can see, oh, look, it's rising slightly. Yours is rising slowly, but over a very short period of time. So you're obviously very, very lucky that they caught that at such an early stage.
Yeah.
But if you're going once per year and having it checked and they see a slight uptick, at least then you're being looked at straight away.
Exactly. And I would echo that, Andy, because men can often be terrible at going to the doctor. But women, I think, are better at going and seeking medical help for anything. They are far better than men. I mean, men could literally have their arm hanging off and they say, well, I'll take 2 paracetamol, it'll probably be fine in the morning. But if their wife, their sister, their mum, their daughter, their best friend nags them into going, they might go. So the message is not just for men, and it never was. I made that clear in my LinkedIn post. It's about the men, but it's also for everybody. And if you're looking specifically at prostate cancer, a lot of people are going to say to their husbands or their brothers or their uncles or their dads or whatever, have you had a PSA test done recently? And they say, oh, I'm not bothered with that. I'm not, no, please, can you go and get it done? Because, I've just seen somebody I know has gone through it. And I'll tell you something that really, really hit home with me. So like I said, Andy, I put this message on LinkedIn, and I also reopened my Facebook account, and I put the same message on Facebook because there's old school friends and so on and so forth, and they're all going to be the same age as me now, so they're all going to be in their early 50s. And after a couple of months or whatever, I get a message, like a private message from somebody I used to work with back in London about 20-something years ago, saying, hi, Jeremy, do you remember me? We used to work together in London, blah, blah, blah. I saw your post, and it made me realize that there were some things about my husband's current health that I wasn't comfortable with. Anyway, the long and the short of it is he went and got tested, and he has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. So your post has literally saved his life. And I showed that message to my wife, and we both had tears because we just thought, wow, what an absolutely demonstrable effect that my message has had on just that one person. They might not have gone to a doctor. They might not have realized that what that man was going through was prostate cancer. They might have thought it was something else. It was, again, I go back to that, it might have just been 2 paracetamol and I'll be fine in the morning type thing that men like to do. So when you receive a message like that, and when you receive messages, the post on LinkedIn got such a huge response. I was overwhelmed. People like you, Andy, saying to me, I've just been and got myself tested because of you. And I've had mine done. Yeah, I've had mine done. And there was almost like a collective of colleagues and friends on LinkedIn saying, thanks very much, Jeremy. I've just had my PSA test and I'm all clear. And you think, thank goodness for that.
It's the emotional side that comes with it, right? The fact that, yes, I've been really poorly. Yes, I've been going through this. I'm going through my own personal battles. But hey, look, if I can save one person I know from having to go through it as well, or I can get them to get checked early on, there's a real emotional side that comes with that, and as well as the emotional side that comes with the rest of it, right? So when you're sat there going, why me, and the stresses that come with that.
Yeah. I always thought the why me. I mean, somebody did say to me early on when I got diagnosed, oh, you must be sitting here thinking to yourself, oh, why me? Why me? And I said, no, I don't think that, because prostate cancer can affect 1 in 8 men. It's not as if I had something that was only affecting maybe 1 in 2 billion men. Then I could possibly think like that. But if it's affecting as many as 1 in 8, that's quite a high chance that if it's not me, it's going to be people I know. So I never felt the why me, because I just thought that's a wasted emotion. There's no point feeling sorry for yourself because it doesn't solve anything. So you've just got to get on with it. You've just got to say, okay, the medical situation is this. I have to go through the treatment. But then you get through it. And then I suppose on the other side, the difficulty for me was I suddenly, once I went through the treatment and I was okay. I mean, the treatment makes you very emotional anyway. Makes you very emotional. You're crying all the time on radiotherapy, on the drugs they were giving me. I turned into a blubbering mess every day. I mean, I would be working from home every day, and sometimes Teresa, my wife, would come into the home office I've got here, and I would just be sat here in a flood of tears, and she'd say to me, "What's wrong?" And I'd say, "I really don't know. I've got literally no idea," but it would take ages to calm me down. And I went through a period where I started racking up a huge amount of guilt that I had cancer, which is of course bizarre and very stupid, because I never chose to get cancer. Nobody chooses to get cancer. Um, but I genuinely had this guilt, and it was only through seeing a therapist and talking it through that I was able to see that the guilt was, of course, nonsense. I mean, I felt so guilty that I considered leaving my wife, who I've been very, very happily married to for the last 26 years, and who I love with all of my heart. I considered leaving her because I felt that she would be happier, and I was robbing her of a better life because of my cancer. And I had to talk through that with a therapist, and my wife was devastated when I told her that, because she said, "But I'm here with you. We do this together. We fight this together. You're not on your own." So, you go through all of that, and it's an emotional roller coaster that you go through. It's not just a physical condition, and you still go through it. You still have days when you feel like you need to talk to somebody, and whether that's a friend or a professional, or somebody that has been through a similar journey. And cancer patients always use the word journey. And I think Lee's probably going to use that word in his story in a moment. It is a journey that you're going through, and you shouldn't ever belittle the journey that you go through. And I got told off by a very dear friend of mine who had a very bad case of breast cancer, and she went through absolute hell with her breast cancer. She had to have the chemo, lost all her hair, ended up weighing sort of like next to nothing, had to have a double mastectomy. And I said to her, "You went through a situation far worse than I did." And she almost slapped me around the face, and she said, "Never ever say that about yourself. Never ever say that your journey was not as bad as mine. It's not a competition. Um, what you went through was difficult. What I went through is difficult. We're here to support each other. Don't ever think that you're not worthy of saying that you've been through something difficult, because we both have." And again, I felt that to a degree, because I was able to get up every morning. Like I say, I would go and have my radiotherapy. I would have a bit of breakfast. I would work for a few hours. I would then be wiped out for the afternoon and basically in the bathroom for the rest of the day. But I was able to function. I wasn't in a hospital. I was just in a clinic every morning. So it is a real journey, and the roller coaster that you go through takes you through a lot of ups and downs, unfortunately. But the more you talk about it, the better it becomes. I'm a big advocate for that.
Mate, thank you so much for your honesty and your candor. I think it's a really important story that you told. I know it's your story, it's very personal to you, but I think it's really important. And the final thing you just said there, I think, is the most important thing. So whether it's to friends or family or to a professional, I think being able to talk about those sorts of stresses and the anxiety and the feelings that came with it, the mental health aspect that was unfortunately plugged in after the physical health diagnosis, I think, is a real important part of it. Lee,
Yes,
I think it might be your turn to say a few words, mate.
that's perfect. Firstly, Jamie, again, I love the word journey because it's never ending. We just have to keep plodding along. And the thing that I took from that, I am that man that will take two ibuprofen and just go, next time, I'll do it next time. The one thing I took from your message after this, I'm going to go and call the GP, and I'm 42 years old. I'm pretty physically fit, but I'm going to go and get the PSA. So I thank you for allowing me to do that. And I also took that Andy's going to run the London Marathon. I'm sure Andy said I'm going to. I'm sure I heard that. So, but no, look, Jeremy, great journey, man, and long may it continue. Let's just go back a bit on this. Again, I'm very, very open about my journey. I got diagnosed with PTSD 4.5 years ago. I've had it. I know I've had it for many, many years, and again, it goes back to I'm okay. I want to say that I'm okay, and I knew I wasn't, but as a man, and again, as a man who has, naturally, I want to be okay. I want to be physically fit. I want to be mentally fit. I couldn't allow people to see that I perceived myself as weak if there was something wrong with me mentally. And so I spent years hiding that, and again, alcohol was kind of my personal medicine. So just to go back on the story a bit, I joined the army at 16. I was what I call a toe rag through school. So I was expelled from schools. Violence was always a big part of my life, and again, both in the family household, outside, and through that, I had this view of the world, and again, it was all about that macho man. Joined the military, again, very institutionalized. I served in Iraq. I then spent 9 years in Iraq and Afghanistan, working as a private bodyguard, consultant for the US government. Multiple things have happened, and I thought everything was okay. And then I moved into the industry, a fast-paced, and again, 10, 12 years ago when I joined the industry, it was still the methodology or the method, work hard, play hard. And I could play the hardest, and again, alcohol, for me, hit everything. And alcohol was easy to blame, it's because I was pissed. Oh, it's because I was drunk. Oh, I won't do it again, it's because I'm drunk. But the consequences of that, and again, the jobs that I've lost through alcohol, and again, I always thought it was the alcohol, but underlying that was my mental health, and again, as I mentioned, I was diagnosed with complex trauma, PTSD, and depression, and the only reason why that come about, again, was that someone in the industry, and I've said this before, Dylan Slaney, when I was at Light of Wonder, took me and said, "Hey mate, I think we need to get you some help." And it'd been very easy for another organisation just to go, "See you later, mate. You've caused trouble. See you later." So they actually paid for my first therapy session, and I sat down with a therapist. And my mindset when I walked in there, I'm just gonna blag it so she says I'm okay. That was my mindset. And why? Sitting down with a therapist, because I was scared as well. I was like emotionally scared for this. And, a few sessions in, we've done EMDR. I then acknowledged, and it was really funny how, for me, sitting with a therapist, doing things like EMDR, which is light therapy, so I could process information. And I've been holding all of this information inside. I wasn't processing it. It was just sat there, and it was actually the crux of where my drinking comes from.
Just so those who wouldn't know what was it, EMDR?
Yeah.
You just give us a quick.
Yeah. So EMDR is it's light therapy. So there's a light in front of you, and you follow the light, and as you're following the light, you're talking about the things that are inside you. Whether that's me shooting someone. We had a massive RTA. I was blown up multiple times. I just took, because I've never truly processed that information. And so what the light does, it lets your right side of your brain process your left side of the brain's information. And so, I was very, very skeptical of this EMDR.
And say, did you walk in there going, "This is a load of hippie bollocks"?
I 100% do that. And I'm like, and what's really funny is it starts off really slow. The light starts off really slow, and I'm like, okay. And it took a couple of sessions, but wow, did it work? And so I was able to start opening up about a lot was inside. Um, and it's still there today. And then again, I still have nightmares, but I have now had the tools. I have the tools to work through.
It's really interesting. I had a period a few years ago, and quite a few of my friends, both inside and outside of the industry, know this, but I had a period of suffering from anxiety. I didn't like getting on airplanes anymore, which, when you have to travel as much as you do in this industry, wasn't great. And it's weird to use the word tools there, because I went and saw a therapist about it, and that was it. She gave me a number of tools, and actually now one of them is a physical tool, and I'm actually sat doing it whilst I'm listening to you, which is really weird because it's in my subconscious. She said, "What's one thing that you've always got on you? Do you have like a lucky penny? Do you have a photo in your wallet of your wife or your kids or something?" I said, "Well, sometimes I leave my wallet at home and I only take a bank card out, especially if I'm in a new city that I don't know and trust. You take one card, a Revolut that you can easily cancel. You take your phone, you take some cash." I said, "But I don't take my wedding ring off." She said, "Next time you're feeling anxious, that's now going to be your anchor." So I've got it on, and literally just listening to you then, when you said tools, it took me back to the tools that she gave me, and sure enough, I was doing it. So there's obviously an underlying tone of anxiety within the conversation that we're all feeling emotionally at this point in time. But I just wanted to ask you, you said you've mentioned, Dylan, where we had the kickoff call as well. How did you go? Because it's a big change going from military, private security. My family, I've got a lot of family in the military. That military into private security. How did you then transition into gaming?
I fell into gaming, so I made quite a bit of money, and I decided what was I going to do. I knew, and it was so funny. I knew back then, so it was 2014, 13, 2013, and I was like, what can I do to now have a career that doesn't involve AK-47s, machine guns, grenades? And I decided to retrain in IT. And and it's so funny because I still laugh at this. I thought I was going to be like a developer. I thought I was just going to be like super cool developing. So I retrained in IT, and I moved into project management. And DAFA reached out to me. I was working in the UK for the NHS. DAFA reached out to me and said, "Hey, we want a project manager." And that was my first stint. But also, I moved out to the Philippines, met my wife. Again, having that stability. I think I mentioned to you on our kind of initial call. When I got out of the army, I didn't know how to pay a gas bill. I didn't know what rent was. Well, I had to go food shopping. I had to do my own shopping. What's all this? And again, and you mentioned the word institutionalized, and I was institutionalized. I knew one way of how to do things, and that was the army way. And then all of a sudden, moving into security was very the same. I was away for 12 weeks at a time in a camp with other military men doing military type things, food provided, accommodation provided. All of a sudden, there's this big wide world. And so, again, I always wanted to succeed. I've always had this drive to succeed, but with that comes a huge amount of fear. How do people look at me? And again, this is something that I still struggle with today, is that my internal fear of not being liked, not fitting in, and again, the fear of coming on a call, and are people going to understand me because of my Bristolian accent? And so there's all of this fear that sits inside me today, and it's still there. But as I said, I have tools to deal with that today. Mindfulness is something that I do. I do a gratitude list every day. I do a nightly inventory. I look at my own actions and making sure that my side of the road is clear. I cannot look at other people and think what they're thinking, because again, that's how my head works and my head works. And we talk about that transition. What was it? It'd been 7 years ago. I tried to kill myself. Cut my femoral artery, blood everywhere. I had to be rushed in. Had emergency surgery to save my life. and it was just the fear of not being able to succeed. And on top of the alcohol and drugs, it was just all compounded. Did I think I really wanted to kill myself? No. No, I don't. Like, if I truly look at it, I just think I was asking for attention and I was asking for help, but not knowing how to ask. Um, and for me, today, this is why I'm always happy to talk about this, because there is help, whether it's a message to myself, yourself, Jeremy, or anyone, I'm always willing to jump on a phone call with someone, because having been there, the most important thing we can do is talk. And, I've had a lot, double figures of people that have committed suicide, from my regiment, in the last 5 years. I am fed up of going to funerals of people that have taken their own life because they haven't seen a way out. And the fact is, there isn't a way out. It's how we deal with it and how we talk about it. Feeling, again, it's that feeling of being part of something. And I think that for me is super important. Life's not easy, guys. And this is the truth of it. Life's not easy, but we are able to look at ways forward. And again, the talking of things, Jeremy, you mentioned it. Just sometimes I don't know how I'm feeling. I don't know why I cry. I'm the same, there'll just be moments when I'm watching a TV program, and all of a sudden I'll burst into tears, or I'll have drips of tears. And I'm like, why are you crying? And I'm this hard looking, feeling, big guy, and I'm sat there emotionally drained.
It's amazing how the people that you speak to that go through something to do with mental health, the proportion that I know that finally reached out and got help or got to a breaking point. You got to a breaking point that was really serious, mate. And it's same as I said to Jeremy, thank you for sharing it with us, because I think if we can reach out to one person and get them to find help before they reach a breaking point, it's going to be amazing. That's a great success for us. I got to a breaking point as well. I got to a breaking point where I even said to Sarah, I've said, is this what happens when people have mental health issues? They get to the point where they go round and round and round, and they then no longer can see a way out, and the only way out is the end, because that's how I felt like my brain was spinning. It's like, I cannot continue forcing myself to go through something that is so painfully uncomfortable to go through. And it's not physical, but it hurts. It really bloody hurts. So if I can take one thing from this, if anybody listening to this or anybody watching this, if you feel like you're heading towards a breaking point, go and speak to someone now, whether that is a friend, a colleague, a family member, or a professional. Go and do it, because it's worth it. I promise you it's worth it. What is the help that is available out there, even after one or two initial sessions, you'll start to realize that there is more going on in life than what's going on in your head at this point in time. I wanted to very quickly touch on, because I'm conscious about time creeping on, the charitable initiative that you're doing with Behind the Gloves. Mate, if you can give a quick overview on that, because I've seen some of the photos and the videos of people looking very, very upset and crawling around on the floor at the end of some of the training sessions you're doing around some of the trade shows and the expos that we go to. So why don't we'll move this now onto a kind of a positive note now towards the end, and give us the insights into what you're doing.
So Behind the Gloves, it's been running 3 years. It started on the back of the Oliver's Wish boxing. I trained the first group of fighters for that: Nick Wright, Brady, Beardy. And what I noticed when I was doing that is that actually their camaraderie, their engagement, their happiness increased through that physical exertion, that being part of something, but also being individual. So having that. So I started to run a couple of sessions per year through the expos, and the community has now grown. So we now have a community of like-minded individuals that go and get some blood, sweat, and tears in the gym, and that connection that is created has allowed us to, again, create this really engaging community. And on the back of that, we generate funds for local grassroots charities. So again, my life started in the gym, boxing gym at a young age, and seeing what some of these community gyms are doing. So being able to support that to impact, those communities outside of our industry by doing what we love to do, which is, again, that energy. And then one thing I just said on top of that, people are turning in their late nights for early morning sessions because alcohol, again, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm seeing a change in the industry where people are looking after their physical wellness and their mental wellness. And just one more thing I would say, Andy, you mentioned around going to speak to someone. I would recommend to anyone, most companies now offer some kind of, physical therapist as part of your wellness package, as in your company. Use it. It's there to be used, and you'll be surprised. Even if you don't think you're okay, you'll be surprised what you learn about yourself through that process.
And any senior management that listen to this, or any business owners, if you don't already offer a mental health or a physical health benefit within your package, then it's time to look into doing so. I think that's a really important aspect as well.
I think as a society and as an industry, I think we're far better at that than we were even sort of like 10, 20 years ago. Men are not afraid, increasing numbers of men are not afraid to admit that they're not okay and that there is an issue, whatever that issue might be, whether it's physical, whether it's a mental health issue, whether it's anxiety. They're more open to saying, I need help. And that's the first step to saying, I need help. I need something because I'm not great at the moment. And men being men, we traditionally would see that as a sign of weakness when you have to make that admission. It's not. Like you said at the very, very beginning, Andy, it's a sign of strength. If you are brave enough to say, like Lee, we literally just said, I am an alcoholic. I mean, when you go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, the first time you go there and you say, hi, my name's Lee and I'm an alcoholic, that's the first step of beating that demon, of beating that addiction. And you have to keep admitting that to yourself, because otherwise you won't get past it, because it is an addiction. So whether it's an addiction, whether it's anxiety like you're going through, Andy, whether it's something physical, being able to say, I need to speak to somebody, I need some sort of help, whatever that help is, and it will differ depending on the circumstances, it makes the world of difference. I mean, like I said, I went to see a therapist, and I only had 4 sessions, and in the end, the therapist said to me, I don't think I can help you anymore. You've now understood that feeling guilty over having cancer is a ridiculous idea, and you're now happy. And she said, you're walking in with a big smile on your face, and I can see that, where on the first day you were coming in and you were very sort of, the weight of the world was on your shoulders, and in 4 sessions you're now sort of like much brighter and much more cheerful and bubbly. And I'm a naturally happy person anyway. Anyone who's known me for years will know that. But you go through those periods when you're not happy, and how do you get yourself out of it? Well, it's very easy to speak to somebody and talk through whatever that issue is, and you will get through it. I got fired by my therapist. She said, I can't help you anymore, get out. And I said, okay, all right, well, I think you've done a great job. Thank you very much. And I can joke about it. Obviously, people that need longer term help and support, it's there for you. Take it, use it to your advantage. My situation was, I compartmentalize what I'm going through. There was the diagnosis, there's a treatment, there's the ongoing bit of the therapy, the medication that I'm on every day, and I've split it into thirds, and I'm in the third section. Some people don't do that. It's just one long continuous journey, and so they might need one long continuous period of help. And what I found, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but if you ever admit to any of your friends, colleagues, that you are in therapy or that you've been to a therapist, you're surprised by the number of people who say to you, "Oh, I've been seeing a therapist for years," or "Oh, I've been seeing a therapist for 6 months." And you look at them and you go, "But why? You seem great." "Well, I am, because I go to a therapist. That's why I'm great.
You also seem
Without the
great because
therapy,
most people
yeah,
catch up with each other via some form of social media nowadays, and you don't put on social media when you're having a really shit day. You only
yeah,
put on nice photos of, I'm off on another trip. Look at this lovely holiday. Oh, I went for Sunday lunch. Look how good the weather is. You never put on, I was like, it's absolutely chucking it down,
yeah.
like it has been this weekend down here. Conscious of time now, and I wanted to just loop back onto something you said before, Lee, about people swapping late nights for early mornings. Well, you need to keep in touch with Zoltan from HIPTHER, because their trade shows and their expos that they put on they have a real focus on wellness. So the one that I went to last year in Prague, the first one I went to, breakfast and lunch is provided. It's all veggie and vegan. And I'm not a veggie or a vegan, but the food was bloody delicious. There's yoga sessions in the morning. There's breakout massage rooms for when you've been on stage or you've been hunched over a laptop for however long, so you can go and get your shoulders rubbed. It's excellent. And I'm sure, Lee, Zoltan will rip your hands off if he can find a nearby gym with a boxing ring for you to do one of your behind the gloves at one of his shows next year.
100%, and we'll commit to doing that with Zoltan.
Amazing. I think to end where we are now would be brilliant. I think there's a lot of positivity after I'm not going to say the low points, because they're not low points. They're part of the journey, as we've all discussed. I think if we can take anything from this, is speak up. And it's been the motto of so many men's mental health adverts for so long, and yet so many of us are still adverse to doing it. Speak up. If you're not feeling great, speak up. If you're going to go to the doctor anyway, get some bloods taken and have a PSA check. But most of all, reach out to those that are near you. Speak to your friends and family, because guess what? None of them want to see you at your worst ebb. They all want to see you happy, and they all want to see you healthy. There's not a single friend of mine, if they turned around to me and said, "Mate, I'm at the end of my tether," where I'd go, "Well, pull yourself together," because that's just not what's done anymore. And that's what's probably said when you're in the military, Lee, what's said when we were all younger men, because that was the way of the world back then. But I'm glad that we're seeing a change, and it's a positive change. I'm glad I'm seeing more men, not just during Movember, supporting each other. So thank you both again.
Thank you.
Can't thank you enough for being so open and honest and agreeing to do this on a public platform, which is going to be shared. As Zoltan said at the start, this is going to be on Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts from. It's going to be published on various social media. I'm sure the GameOn team are already chomping at the bit as to which bits and pieces they're going to tear out of this for little short clips for LinkedIn, etc. So all that's left for me to say is thank you both very much. Thank you to Zoltan and for the team at HIPTHER for giving us this platform. And hey, let's not make this the last one. Let's keep up the conversation. Let's do it again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.